Hello, my friends. D.L. Anderson here. Welcome back to Transformation by Truth podcast as we share the truth concerning these last days and what you must do to save yourself from the violent times that are just ahead. Today's podcast is a word of truth accounting of the end times. The end is coming. The end is near. Today's podcast is entitled The Divided Nation of Yisra'el, Part 6, The Light of Yahushua Messiah, a flame which will consume the whole world. The podcast objectives are reveal how we come to receive revelation, reveal the primary illumination of Yahushua Messiah, analyze the connection between darkness and ignorance, and reveal the only path to unity. Welcome. Now, before we begin today's lesson, I would like to welcome all my beloved brothers and sisters in Yahushua Messiah who have been scattered to the four corners of the earth, who Yahuwah has joined to this ministry for such a time as this. I would also like to welcome anyone who is engaging our podcasts or videos for the first time. We trust you were led by the set apart spirit in finding us. And if you continue to be led, we hope you stay with us. For these are troubling times, and an evil day is just ahead. To this end, if you are watching this video on YouTube and you have not subscribed to our channel, click the subscribe button below, and you will be alerted whenever we post new videos. Also, if you have any questions at the conclusion of this video, you can ask them using the link in the podcast description below the video player. Last but not least, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up so YouTube can share it with believers like us. The pieces to the Revelation puzzle. Shalom, my beloved brothers and sisters, and welcome back to our Word from a Watchman series. In our most recent lesson, we analyzed the three primary requirements for receiving the revelation of Yahushua Messiah. Here again, this revelation is crucial, for Yahushua Messiah is at the heart of all the controversies that are dividing and thus destroying our nation. To wit, the division being pushed by the enemy, which is why he works very hard to prevent honest men and women from receiving this revelation. And yet, if you fulfill the three requirements I shared in the most recent podcast, you will receive the revelation of Yahushua Messiah, and you will have a clear path into the renewed nation of Yisra'el by entering into the covenant of restoration. Ergo, I will restate the three requirements for receiving the revelation of Yahushua Messiah at this time. 1, you must be girded with truth and walking in the fear of Elohim. 2, you must follow the spiritual process for receiving revelations. And 3, you must be committed to your spiritual practices, to wit, the 7 pillars of our faith. Now, as it pertains to points 2 and 3, we ran into a paradox, which we resolved, but it created another paradox, which we did not resolve. Get this. Spiritual analysis should be executed quickly if you are being led by the set apart spirit. And yet, revelations of the spirit take time to receive. And thus, how do we account for this inconsistency? The answer is sure, and I will offer it to you as a treasure box. Get this: spiritual analyses are not equated to revelations. Quite the contrary, they are the pieces to the revelation puzzle. Ergo, most revelations are the result of your ability to execute multiple spiritual analyses. Along these lines, you should consider every spiritual analysis, i.e., study, as a puzzle piece. And every time you unlock a puzzle piece, you get closer to seeing the big picture, to it, the revelation. And that, my friends, is why spiritual analyses are designed to be quick and why revelations do take time. And yet, the more spiritual analyses you complete, the clearer the revelation becomes, for you are getting closer to completing the puzzle. And as I said beforehand, it will take many spiritual analyses for you to receive the revelation of Yahushua Messiah. And if you are still with me, there is a good chance you have already completed many of these analyses. Ergo, my goal is to harden your knowledge on those matters and to open your heart and your mind to even more. Let's get started. Called to be the light. Now, as I said aforetime, I will be very strategic in my approach in disclosing the revelation of Yahushua Messiah. Reason being, if you focus solely on the light, it will blind you. Ergo, the Ruach is leading me to focus on that which the light illuminates. Along these lines, the primary illumination of Yahushua Messiah as the light of the world is the existence of darkness. This speaks to the third point I desire to make in the podcast from last Friday, i.e., the divided nation of Israel, part 4. But first, I'll need to remind you of the verse that supports the point I desire to make. Isaiah 42:6 is revealing, I, Yahuwah, have called you in righteousness, and I strengthen your hand and guard you, and give you for a covenant to a people, for a light to the nations. Now, from this verse, we can draw two key conclusions, which I will offer as explications. First and foremost, Yahuwah is confirming that all the nations prior to Yahushua Messiah were walking in darkness. That includes the former nation of Yisra'el, even though they were given the Torah, which is an important point you must keep in mind. Now, this leads to the second conclusion, vis-a-vis, you cannot enter into the covenant of restoration without adhering to the light. And this is why we know Yahushua Messiah is the executor and the standard of the covenant of restoration, for he is the light. Not only this, but he is a light because Yahuwah said he is the light. Ergo, all who resist Yahushua Messiah as the light resist Yahuwah as the one who called him in righteousness to be the light. Be advised. A light in a night of darkness. Now, I want to analyze the fact that all the nations prior to Yahushua Messiah were walking in darkness, which led to ignorance. To wit, the first of the 16 deadliest degrees of lawlessness, which we have analyzed for the past 4 weeks. Now, the problem with ignorance is sure, vis-a-vis, it results in a lack of knowledge, which is the primary reason why men and women everywhere are being destroyed. Here again, this includes the nation of Israel, past and present. This is crucial to understand, for many are being deceived into believing they can enter the covenant of restoration without adhering to the Torah of Yahushua Messiah, to wit, his spiritual standard and submission to the rule of Elohim. Ergo, we should see what the word of truth has to say on this matter, specifically the testimony of Yahushua Messiah. In the books of the Nazarene, 3:15 through 16, Yahushua is saying, "These days are a night of ignorance, when all is dark. But I am the light which will dispel the darkness. My light will light your lamps, and you too will become bearers of the light. I am the light to point the way, and none can find the way to Yahuwah except by the light. I come to testify concerning the Father, for those following my way see Elohim and the light of the Father." In the books of the Nazarene, 1650, I come to open the blind eyes of ignorance, to rescue the captives confined in dungeons of delusion, and to free men from the shackles of the flesh. I come to quicken the dead in Ruach, to heal the wounds of worldly woes, and to comfort the despairing. In the books of the Nazarene, 18:8, this is a night of ignorance, and I come declaring the way of light. Whoever believes in me does not serve me, but serves with me. He is my brother in the cause of Elohim. He who sees me sees the reflection of he who inspires me. I am the light of the world. If anyone hears my words but chooses to ignore them, I am not his judge. For I am not come to judge men, but to guide them. The light will not be with you for long. So hasten to it, lest you be left in darkness. In the books of the Nazarene, 20:56 through 58, the people live in a night of ignorance. I come to lighten the darkness. I will light a flame which will consume the world, and darkness will be no more. Now, the sum of these verses confirm the central premise that all the nations were walking in darkness prior to Yahushua Messiah. Otherwise, there would have been no need for Yahuwah to call him in righteousness, to be a light to all nations. This is why Yahushua referred to times past and times present as a night of darkness. It is because ignorance was plaguing the entire world, even the former nation of Yisra'el, to whom the oracles of Elohim were committed. Alas, due to their erroneous interpretation of the Torah, the former nation had migrated far outside of the will of Elohim, which is why we were scattered to the four corners of the earth. It is for the following reason. The former nation was given the Torah to be a light to all the nations, so that they, like Yisra'el, would enter into the covenant with Yahuwah Elohim. However, because they were a degenerate nation who perpetuated lawlessness, they became ignorant, and by their ignorance, the world became dark. Notwithstanding, Yahuwah knew the former nation of Israel would fail, which is why he sent Yahushua to be a light in a night of darkness, such that every man, woman, and child in the world who is willing to submit to the rule of Elohim could find their way to Elohim. Praise Yah. And this, my friends, is why Yahuwah is leading me to take on this topic at this juncture in our exposition of lawlessness? It is because we have ascended to the level of knowledge. And in doing so, we have a clear path to obtaining the elixir for ignorance and deception, the two primary sources of the darkness that has covered the whole earth. Ergo, as we are positioned to receive the knowledge of Elohim, we are equipped to navigate through the darkness. My dear friends, we have the power to defeat the spirits of ignorance and deception. And as you will see in future podcasts, this will make the remainder of your quest for holiness, perfection, and everlasting life much less complicated than the leading frames. Our example for oneness. Now, in closing, the Ruach is leading me to reveal how the sum of these matters confirms Yahushua Messiah as the great unifier. And I will begin by posing a question to the audience. Answer me this. What is the best way to unify thousands of believers across the world? To wit, where would you begin? The answer is sure. You would begin at the foundation. For if we establish our beliefs off diverse foundations, there can be no unity. Ergo, the foundation of our beliefs as the renewed nation of Israel is our faith in Yahushua Messiah as the light that dispels all darkness. Now, it is true that there are many other things we will come to see concerning Yahushua Messiah, but you will never see them if you are not building your faith from this sure foundation, which I will summarize in the following treasure box. As the light of the world, Yahushua Messiah is our example for oneness with Elohim. And without this oneness, we cannot be saved. This is why we have been commanded to follow his steps. For in doing so, we are walking in the light that points the way to oneness with Elohim. And in these last days, Yahushua Messiah is revealing his light to all those who will submit to the rule of Elohim according to his standard. And by adhering to his spiritual standard, we enter into the covenant of restoration, and we become members of the renewed nation of Yisra'el. Now, if you don't believe this summary of our core beliefs in Yahushua Messiah, then I am telling you, you will never receive the revelation of Yahushua Messiah, and you will not believe many of the truths the Ruach has called me to share with his people. My dear friends, you must believe me. There can be no unity where men and women are not aligned on their core beliefs. Quite the contrary, there will only be persistent arguing and discord that will eventually devolve into mayhem. Not only this, but you must always remember that Yahushua, like Yahuwah, can see the Ruach of men. Ergo, you may not realize it, but there is a reason why the majority within this nation will never receive the revelation. It is because they will never submit to the rule of Elohim. Despite their phony claims, they don't fear Elohim, and they most certainly do not love him. And so, one of the easiest ways to tell who is who in this nation is by simply determining who has a firm foundation of faith in Yahushua Messiah. For these have the potential to be unified. Notwithstanding, this constitutes a small minority of this nation, which is why Yahushua must divide our nation before he can unify his people. To wit, a nation within a nation, and a people within a people. For not all Yisra'el is Yisra'el. And that, my friends, will be the topic of the next podcast. To wit, we will analyze the specifics concerning the division Yahushua must execute before we, the chosen elect, can be unified and truly born again. I will see you in 2 days. Yahuwah bless you until then. Now, here is the final word. A crucial matter alarming our nation is the difficult path to receiving revelation. Brothers and sisters, hear me carefully as I say, I understand the challenges we are up against as a nation. To wit, I understand the immense difficulty in receiving revelation in these last days, vis-a-vis a night of ignorance which has continued for thousands of years. And yet, I also know the power of the promise and the countless blessings and benefits Yahuwah said he would bestow upon all who are truly under the restoration. Ergo, if you are not experiencing those blessings and benefits, I advise you to reconsider. The path you thought would lead to restoration is the path of the underbidder. Heretofore, I recommend don't be too proud to admit if you are walking in darkness. It takes time for us to see the light. But Yahuwah is faithful, and he will surely guide us through these times of ignorance, darkness, and night. Now, here is today's assignment. Meditate on today's lesson. And if you have any questions, please submit them using the form at pinnacleofholiness.com. And I will respond to you as soon as I can. Now, here is what's next. We completed today's podcast, The Divided Nation of Yisra'el, Part 6. And the next podcast is entitled The Divided Nation of Yisra'el, Part 7. I will post this podcast on Friday, September 26, 2025. Until then, my friends, continue to be led by the Spirit of Elohim, continue to watch, continue to pray, continue in fasting, and most of all, continue to be focused, for the end is coming. The end is near.